Hey there, welcome to the show. My name is Cary Weston. This is the Practical Marketing Show, and glad you're here. Hey, today we're going to talk about a buyer's guide and what it can do for your business, what it is, how to put one together, and even how to use it. Okay, so if you have choices, if you have questions, if your sales process involves educating a customer and providing information, then a buyer's guide could be your best friend, especially if you're looking for your website to help the sales process. Okay. So again, if you have frequent questions, if you have information to convey, if you have things that customers want to know and they can either get it from someone else or from your team, and you think that the website is an important part of your sales process, the buyer's guide is something that I think you're going to want to take a look at. So let's start with some basic information as to what do I mean when I say a buyer's guide. Well, some businesses, perhaps yours, believe that sales should be handling customer education, but there is a bunch of people out there. There are customers out there. In fact, studies will show that number is growing, that do not want to talk or start with a conversation with sales. They are self-researching. They are trying to find out the information themselves. And perhaps they're looking at your company and they're looking at someone else's company. We take a look at questions and exploration and self-education in two different categories. I call them shopping and buying. Shopping questions are basically researching the topic as a whole. And buying is basically figuring out who to actually get it from, product or service, right? So shopping is kind of the big picture of what is it and what does it mean and what sizes do they come in and what do I need and where do I find it? And then buying is basically, okay, I've done all that. Now, where am I actually going to go? Who am I going to give my money to, right? So not everyone's ready to talk to sales. There's different levels of the buyer's journey, and you can put yourself in this position, right? So you're not always a straight line between want and buy. That's not a quick transaction all the time, right? Sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes it takes multiple steps, and sometimes it's just research, whatever it might be. It's never as smooth, simple, and as fast as we want it to be for the majority of folks that do business with us. And then we also know that not everybody that visits your website, in fact, the vast majority of them, are ready to do anything other than just learn, browse, right? Dig in. They're not ready to buy. And there's, if they're not ready to talk to a salesperson, they're certainly not ready to buy. And so we want to have something that gives potential customers the freedom to learn at their own pace, and without pressure. That's how we educate. That's how we guide. That's how we become a voice of authority. And when we do that, we're building two very important things in the sales process: trust and confidence, right? So we're building trust because we're saying, hey, we understand your position that you're in, what you're thinking, what you're needing. And by the way, we've been there before and we have information and we're going to give it to you. It just helps people relate to the fact that you are the right company, and then confidence that, this is the company that I trust. This is the company that I want to talk to. And honestly, sometimes it takes courage and confidence just to get that person to reach out and talk to a human being at your company, doesn't it? And so this is another way of doing that. And here's another thing. It oftentimes, anytime we can educate, we're reducing friction, we're reducing hesitation, we're empowering, and we're saying we're here to help. And more, helping and guiding is becoming a more important, it always has been, it's just becoming more so an important part of the sales process because there's so much. Think about this for a second. How much information is out there right now about what you do? Think about your business, the products, the services, what you do. How much information is out there? Now, again, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's what you would say or how you would say it, doesn't matter. There's a lot of it out there. Now, of course it matters, but what I'm saying is, if I don't know the difference, what does it matter, right? A lot of business owners I talk to say there's so much bad stuff out there. There's so many people saying the wrong things. There's so many people giving the wrong advice. Well, participate in that then. So become the answer that you want people to get, because they're going to get the answer anyway. They're going to get the information from somewhere. And the question is, are they going to get it from you, right? And how easy is it for that to happen? So buyer's guide. It's one of the tools. It's one of the tools that we use. And there's a two-prong approach here because you're going to be able to do one exercise and get 2, maybe 3, 4, I'm counting as I'm doing this, you're going to get many benefits from this, at least 4 or 5. And let me explain. We talked about building trust before the first conversation with a person. Would it be great if that first conversation with anyone on your sales team kind of felt like the second or third, like you were talking to an educated, informed buyer, right? Wouldn't it be great if some of the most common hesitations or objections or roadblocks were addressed beforehand, right? In a way that related to folks so that they could see that maybe an opinion they have or an anxiety that they have is something that can be overcome, right? It makes the sales conversation, buyer's guide, anytime we can educate, a buyer's guide makes the sales conversations more productive because instead of answering the same basic questions over and over again, you can focus on the more meaningful, the more specific, the more customized or relatable ones to that customer. And it creates a better buying experience all the way around, right? Because you're getting rid of tire kickers for the most part. You're giving people an opportunity to get the information that they need, and they don't feel as overwhelmed because you've got a clear resource that can guide them. And I've had buyer guides in a number of different industries, and I've heard feedbacks like, this has dramatically reduced our repetitive questions. I'm getting better leads, right? I'm getting less phone calls and emails. Now, you're going to say, well, why the heck would I want less? Well, here's a situation. We have a land surveying client that in order to put together a quote has to invest almost an hour of their time, and that's without traveling to a location. And in order to put a quote together, you've got to have a certain amount of information. And I would say a significant amount of the week was spent conversing with, educating, collecting this information just to get to the point where they could put together a quote. And the buyer's guide became a part of the website saying, if this is what you're here for, if you're here to get an estimate, if you're here to get a quote, here's how you can be prepared. Here's what we're going to ask for. Here's what to gather. Here's where to find it. By the way, here's why we need it. Here's how we're going to use it. And this is how it impacts where we're going. That alone, the ability for that resource to be available on the website, cut down the chasing and the phone calls, right? The collections of all that kind of stuff dramatically. And it lessened the amount of time that it took for preparation, right? And oh, by the way, the folks that didn't want to do that work, that just wanted a quick quote, stopped calling too. And you might say, well, that's not good. We want people calling all the time. Well, I would say to you that it was estimated that 80% of those people weren't ever going to buy. They were just calling. And that's over a long period of multiple years. And so we knew, and they knew, that the best fit customer for them were the folks that could have access to this information and get the information from certain places and know what to do with it, right? And so the ability for them to share what was needed and how it was used and all that good stuff dramatically cut down their labor time. It didn't cut down on sales, by the way. You didn't hear me say that. It cut down on the labor time and the leads that came in because we're eliminating those repetitive tire kicker type things, right? Because there's a certain amount of stuff that you can have readily available that doesn't really need to require the time of your company. So a buyer's guide. Here's the exercise that I want you to go through with your team if you want to put one together. Number one, how do you build it? Well, the most important thing you can do is think about the sales process of your company, okay? And think about and ask, by the way, this is a collective exercise. Think about the questions and the conversations that come up time and time again, right? And then list them, right? Go through your sales and your service team, by the way, as well, and just get that out there. And then once you get that list, like think of the perfect sales call. Think of the things that you wished customers would ask. Think of the things that you wish they didn't know, right? Those opinions that are wrong. What do you wish they asked? What do you wish they knew, right? What do you wish you could change in what people's perceptions are? What do people say, that's helpful, right? What creates the most friction? What's their objections, right? What creates the friction and roadblock that we need to get ahead of, right? what makes people push back, what makes people get excited, things like that. Come up with the perfect sales call in terms of what that conversation might look like, and get all that information out, and then answer those questions and provide that information, get into a resource. And then that becomes what's called a buyer's guide. Now, the buyer's guide literally becomes a PDF on your website. You can just lay that out. But now, here's the additional components. Those individual questions and answers become part of your website, right? So you can have an FAQ page with all this information. Those become excellent blog posts, by the way, if you want to create an article from an SEO point of view. So if you want to take a few of these questions and put them together into an article, that's great for Google traffic. Some of those topics, questions, concerns, they become great video scripts, right? And that becomes great social media content, which could also become a great email program. So the creation of the buyer's guide, the process by which you go through to get the information for the buyer's guide, is going to give you extended benefit in a number of different ways. So you can see where that's going. And then if you put on your website the ability for you to exchange information, like name an email for the download of the buyer's guide, if you do it right, it's an incredible resource that's going to be really helpful for buyers that are looking. No, I'm laughing because as I'm filming this, I've got a cat walking across the couch over my shoulder. But the ability for someone to say thank you. Now, how many times has a customer that hasn't bought from you yet say thank you for making this process easy? Thank you for providing information. Thank you for helping me along the way. I have clients that have shared with them that people that call in the sales process thank them for doing just that. They thank them for giving them the information because so much of this is not out there. Now, you're going to tell me, I can't put it all out there. What would my sales teams do, right? The answer is your sales teams should be working with folks that really want to buy, and folks are looking for information. And so if you can arm your sales team with resources, it makes their job easier, then the buyer's guide becomes one of your best friends, right? Folks do like to read at their own pace. They do like to get information on their own pace. And the more complex and bigger the process, or the bigger the price tag on this, the more important, by the way, buyer's guide becomes. The more options and choices there are, the more opportunities there are for confusion, the better it's going to be, your buyer's guide, right? So a couple different things for tips if you're thinking about this. And by the way, there's an article on the website, practicalmarketingshow.com. You can check this out. I'm laughing now as my cat is climbing up the stairs or climbing up the shelves on the bookshelf behind me. She's very, very nosy. So here is what makes a buyer's guide really effective. Okay, first, the empathetic positioning. Speaking to your customers' concerns, not just your product features, right? Think about the empathetic position. Think about the sincere anxiety, fears, needs, concerns. Put yourself in their shoes. Like, if you can do that, then you are really going to be able to connect in a great way with the folks that want to come and talk to you about your business. Frequently asked questions. We just talked about that, addressing common concerns and objections up front. Hey, here's one. Clarity and simplicity. Keep it easy to read, easy to navigate, focused on what matters most. Comparison and decision making. So if there are opportunities for options and variety, then tell them what it means. If it's going to make it more expensive, less expensive, then get in there and just share with them what those options mean for them, right? If there are visual aids or examples, images, checklists, right? Anything that can make it more engaging and help simplify complex points. And just think about the trusted advisor approach. So this should not feel like a sales pitch. It should feel like guidance from an expert who wants to help them make the best decision. I'm going to repeat that again. The buyer's guide, the best buyer's guides should not feel like a sales pitch. It should feel like guidance from an expert who wants to help someone make the best decision. So gather common questions, think about the customer's point of view, structure for easy reading, and keep it updated, by the way. So if things are changing, revisit it every once in a while and make sure that the information you're putting out is relevant and meaningful, especially if prices change. You can do price ranging. And yes, by the way, price ranges and price details should be part of the buyer's guide. It doesn't have to be a price list. It doesn't have to be a fixed quote. You don't have to paint yourself into a corner, but people do want to know what makes it more expensive, what makes it less expensive, what is the range, right? What are the options and why does it matter? right? Your prospects will thank you for this if you put it together in the right way. If you really think about their position, the empathetic position, and think about how you can help your sales team, then the buyer's guide becomes a really meaningful and valuable tool for both you and prospects alike. So I hope that was valuable. Again, there's some information about this. There's no cats, but there's information about this particular topic at practicalmarketingshow.com. And as always, reach out to me if you have any questions. You can find a way to get a hold of me there. That's it for today's show. So until we talk again, hey, be good. Talk soon.